When I was in the second grade, I was obsessed with a small, unassuming Japanese puzzle box that my grandmother had gifted me. It was a maddening contraption of infinite twists and turns and hidden compartments that had a secret reward at the end. I would spend days, then hours, then weeks trying to crack the mystery behind this object until all I wanted to do was to pick it up and smash it apart. And yet, a subtle determination kept me going, until one day the box finally clicked into place. You see, looking back at it now, I realized that for 8-year-old Araf, it was never about reaching the end of the puzzle, but it was the engagement, the chase, the process of working through it that kept me going. I didn't know this at the time, but that would be my initiation into a lifelong romance of chasing my curiosities into the world of science and innovation. Over the last 100 years, we as a civilization have a lot to be proud of. Today, our world looks drastically different in the 21st century than it did in the 17th, 18th, or the 19th century. Today, breakthroughs in precision gene editing allow us to cure the world's most pressing diseases. Self-driving vehicles are making freight transport obsolete. AI-generated movies are disrupting the entertainment industry, and countless other innovations that would have been unfathomable to us just 100 years ago. In terms of human progress, we are currently living through one of the most exciting times in human history, and this trajectory is only going to keep accelerating as a result of our new innovations and our new ideas. So growing up, I was always a super curious person. My grandma's puzzle box really set me towards a path of doing what excited me. I loved learning, reading books on everything from math to memoirs to biology, and even binging all 16 of the greatest book series ever made, The Diary of a Wimpy Kid. In fact, when the COVID-19 pandemic first hit, in my grade 9 year of high school, I, like many others, was stuck inside, isolated away from talking to my loved ones. Having nobody to turn to, I used the internet as a vehicle to form my own sense of community. I realized that in an era where anyone can be reached over the internet, the cost of not being around exceptional people was too high. And so, every time I came across somebody interesting or curious over the internet, I took the initiative to reach out over email, introduce myself, and ask them to hold a 10 to 15-minute conversation where we could exchange ideas authentically. And surprisingly, the majority said yes, from once a month to a few a week. I was soon doing several of these meetings a day, talking to some of the most fascinating, successful, and adventurous people I had ever come across. I spoke to scientists conducting life-changing research, doctors revolutionizing medicine, entrepreneurs founding million-dollar companies, and so much more. After my little experiment, I was more excited than ever to work on projects that had the ability to impact millions. I became fascinated by the world of medicine, biotechnology, and scientific research, and poured hours of work into developing my skills in these fields. I loved reading scientific articles on the latest news in CRISPR or how to use augmented reality in surgeries, and began reaching out to professors whose work I resonated with. Over the next 2 years, through lots of failing, iterating, and third-door thinking, I conducted research in global health, social sciences, and biotech at some of the world's most leading organizations. Most recently, I spent the last 6 months in Dhaka, Bangladesh, where I worked on finding the optimal cure for a disease called avascular necrosis, a condition that affects millions of people worldwide. I published a paper on my research, won international awards for my work, traveled across the world, and did all this while creating a community of ambitious and lifelong friends. Through all of this, I'm truly humbled by how fortunate I've been, but I also realize just how much impact we as young people can have on the future of humanity. I can't help but wonder, how can we get more people working on impactful projects around the world? And what I realize is that much of our society today, especially for younger people, they're less prone to pursue new and innovative ideas than we've seen in the recent past. Over the years, the same school system that had once instilled in us a sense of wonder and curiosity for the world as kids has slowly evolved to extinguish it. When we were little, discovery was easy. There weren't curious or non-curious people. We were all the same, digging holes in the ground and flipping over rocks to see what we could find. We picked up ants and held earthworms like they were the coolest things we ever saw. We recognized the world for what it was, not as a series of detailed mechanisms, but as a whole. It's a perspective that many of our best thinkers have lost over time. In a society of increasing focus on specialized study, we're losing sight of the reason why we need innovation altogether, and that is to solve the world's most pressing issues, including access to quality healthcare, access to education, and closing the gender gap that still persists today. Well, naturally, the question begs, so what's currently stopping us? Well, innovation is by definition doing something new, something different, something scary. But most of us aren't conditioned to do new and exciting things. Years of a rigid education system has created immune bodies that attack our new and exciting ideas, leading us towards pursuing a path of doing what you're supposed to, instead of doing what excites you. It is just as author Tim Ferriss says that excitement is the more practical synonym for happiness, and it is precisely what you should strive to chase. It is the cure-all. In ancient Greek mythology, there's this story about a king named Sisyphus who's been condemned by the gods to push a boulder up a hill. And just as he gets to the top of the hill, the boulder would roll back to the start. His curse was to do this really hard thing, and once he gets super close to accomplishing it, he fails, and he has to keep doing this for all of eternity. See, 9 out of 10 people that I tell this story to would rather jump off a cliff than do the same fate as Sisyphus, to face failure repeatedly to a task that has no end. However, according to many philosophers, many believe that Sisyphus is the ultimate definition of a life that is well lived. Sisyphus teaches us that instead of avoiding painful tasks, we can derive satisfaction from tackling difficult work head on. This could be something as simple as not putting off going to the gym or getting your homework done, but it could also mean pursuing that idea that nobody but you is passionate about. Starting that blog that you've always wanted, starting that YouTube channel, pursuing that research idea, whatever it is, just as Sisyphus finds meaning in the act of pushing the boulder, getting up every time it rolls back down, we too can find purpose in pursuing our passions and daring to innovate, even in the face of uncertainty, doubt, and failure. In today's world, as the world of cutting-edge STEM research is racing forward, the rest of society, especially the youth, is lagging behind. We see people working on things such as nanotechnology, quantum mechanics, blockchain, machine learning, as just a collection of big and scary concepts that only geniuses can crack. But we must recognize that innovation is less about knowing the facts and more about knowing how to find the facts. It's about being curious, being bold enough to do hard things, and doing so while surrounding yourself with other ambitious, like-minded people who can push you further. If there's one thing to take away from my talk today, know that in order to achieve unconventional success, we must take an unconventional path. Everything I've ever achieved has been through countless rejections, hours spent locked in my room working on myself, and people telling me that I was too ambitious for my age. Nobody ever changed the world by doing what they were supposed to, so it is up to us to create the future that we want to leave behind. Throughout my journey, I've learned that if you're truly passionate about building something game-changing, then go for it. Fall in love with the process and the results will come. Because as my grandma's puzzle box showed me, a journey towards innovation is in the continuous journey of learning, discovery, and pursuing a path that is really authentic to yourself. That is the true path towards innovation. Thank you.